So this is the hands-on video for the NMDR pivot table. In this video, we are going to be going over a brief introduction of the NMDR pivot table application. We are going to be going over the data dimensions. We are going over the pivot table interface, how to set data dimensions, table management, saving a table as favorite, creation and analysis integrations. As an introduction, a pivot table is a dynamic tool for data analysis, which lets you quickly summarize and arrange data in the tabular format. We can see a picture of an example of what a pivot table looks like on the NMDR platform. Going over the data dimensions, there are three data dimensions: the what, the when, and the where. The when dimension represents the period, which is the time when the data is being collected. For example, we could have February 2020, we could have 2nd of March 2019, etc. The what dimension represents the data element, which is what data is being collected. For example, fever tested by RDT, total uncomplicated malaria tested, etc. The where dimension represents the organization unit, which is where our data is being collected. For example, Abuja Clinic, Public Hospital Kano, etc. Now, to open the pivot table interface, in the app menu, you select the pivot table application. When the pivot table loads, this is what the pivot table interface and menu looks like. To our left, we can see the left side menu, which contains our data dimensions. You can see the data, the periods, organization units, age, gender, etc. Now, data, period, and organization units are the three main data dimensions. To the top center, we can see the chart control. Now here you can see update, favorites, layout, options, download, and embed. These are different options which we can use to control our charts. In the coming slides, we are going to go over each of them. To the top right, we can see the data representation menu. Here you can decide to change your table into a chart and do other things with your table. And in the center, the main area is the table area. Any table that you've generated is displayed here. Steps to creating a pivot table. First, we select the dimension type. We have 5 dimension types by default on DHIS2. The first type is the indicators, then the data elements. We also have data sets, event data items, program indicators. To create a pivot table based on one of these data types, you select the one you need. The data elements data type represents the what dimension. It explains what is being collected or analyzed. It can be referred to as a unit of data collection. Now, a data set is a collection of data elements grouped together for data collection. It is also referred to as the data entry form. Indicators in the NMDR, indicators represent formulas providing coverage rates, incidence rates, ratios, and other formula-based units of analysis. An indicator is made up of a factor, numerator, and denominator. Event items are data elements that are part of a program or event. Program indicators are calculated formulas based on a data element in a program or event. To select a data dimension to use in your pivot table, you click on one of these 5 options. After clicking one of these items, the next thing to select is the data group. There are a number of predefined data groups on the NMDR platform. After selecting the data type group, the next thing to do is to select the individual data items you want to collect data for. In this case, we are using malaria testing, and we want to pick specific data elements related to malaria testing, which we are going to use to create our pivot table. To select the data element to use, you can double tap on each of them to move it to the right side, or you use the greater than sign to move one data element to the right side. You can also use the double greater than sign to move all of them to the right side. To deselect the data element, you double click on it at the right side to move it back to the left side, or you click on the less than sign to move it back to the left side. We can also use the double less than sign to move all of them back to the left side. To give context, the left side represents data elements that haven't been selected, and the right side represents data elements that have been. The next thing to select is the period dimension for our pivot table. Clicking on this will show us all the period options available to us. The first thing to do is to untick the last 12 months, which is ticked by default, unless we intend to collect data for the last 12 months. Now, there are 2 different types of periods we can select: the relative periods and the fixed periods. The relative periods are displayed at the lower half of the period dimension tab, while the fixed periods are displayed at the top tab. The relative periods are periods relative to the current date. For example, last 12 months, last year, yesterday, etc. A fixed period is a definite or absolute period of time. An example of a fixed period is January 2019 or week 2, 2019, etc. To select a relative period, you can pick from the numerous options that we have below. To select a fixed period, you need to start by selecting the period type from the period type list. The period type can be monthly, weekly, annually, etc. Then you select the period from the list of available options. The next thing to consider is selecting the organization unit. The default selected organization unit is the federal government, which is the root organization unit. You can also select child organization units, which are states in this case. We can also drill down by clicking on the plus sign to the left of each of the organization units to select their own children. There are 3 selection modes we can choose from when choosing organization units. We can select individual units, or we can select levels, or we can select by groups. To select by level means that we can select at each hierarchy at the federal level, state, LG, ward, or facility. Now we can select multiple levels to display data at multiple points. When we are done, we click on update and then our table should load. In this case, we have a table that displays the federal government and then displays period of 2020 and then displays two data elements, fever tested by microscopy and fever tested by RDT. This shows us values of fever tested by microscopy compared to fever tested by RDT for 2020 in the federal government. You can notice the use of the data dimensions in this table. You can recognize the what dimension, which is the data element we are displaying data for, the where dimension, which is the organization unit, and the when dimension, which is the period. On this pivot table we've just created, we can change the layout in order to display the data in a different way. The layout is used to arrange the pivot table by positioning your data dimensions as either table columns, rows, or filters. Now the column dimensions appear as columns in the table, the row dimensions appear as rows in the table, and then the filter dimension appears on the top of the table. We can see that in this case we have our organization unit as the filter, data as the column, and period as the row. Now, if we change this by switching the period and the organization unit, we will notice that our table also changes. When we have done that, we click on update. And now we have data for fever tested by microscopy compared to fever tested by RDT on our pivot table. It is advised to play around with the layout of your pivot table in order to determine the best view of your pivot table. Sometimes changing the layout to different arrangements better display the data on your pivot table. Now, after creating a pivot table, next thing we want to do is to save our table. We have two options, save and save as. We use the save as option when the pivot table has not been saved previously. We use the save option if the pivot table has been saved previously. Clicking on save as pops up a dialog box where you input the name of the pivot table and the desired description. In this case, we are going to name our pivot table fever tested by RDT and microscopy. And we are going to repeat that in our description also. We can customize our pivot table further by utilizing the options in the top control bar. In these options, we can choose from various pivot table customizations in order to display more information on our pivot table. Here we can see that there are data options, event options, organization unit options, then there is the legend option and the style option. We are going to apply the sum option to our table, which will display the sum of rows and columns on our table. If we click on update, we will see that our table changes. Even if we add more dimensions to our pivot table, it will still calculate the column and row totals of our table. We can see that by doing this, if we add more rows, each row will also be cumulated to the right of the pivot table. After creating our pivot table, we may want to download the data in different formats. DHIS2 allows us to do this. There are three data layouts or table layouts that we can download our data in: Microsoft Excel, CSV, and HTML. Here, I'm going to download this pivot table in the CSV format. We may also want to download our data as a plain data source. Here, there are different options to do this. We can also utilize the NMDR embed functionality to embed our pivot table into external websites as a resource. The embed functionality is actually a piece of HTML code that enables us to display our pivot table externally. We can copy this HTML code and paste it in a separate website. Doing this will display our pivot table on that website. We can also display our pivot table as a chart. This is called analysis integration. To do that, we click on the chart icon at the top right corner of our pivot table. After clicking on this icon, we click on open table as a chart. This will take the data from our pivot table and display it as a corresponding chart. This chart can then be saved, and whenever it is referenced, it will display similar data to the pivot table but as a chart.
Now that we have come to the end of this session, we can partake in a very simple practical. First, we are going to design a table to show the number of confirmed uncomplicated malaria for every month in 2019 in your own state. This can be done using the techniques we've just learnt on setting dimensions in the pivot table application. When we are done, we are going to expand the above table to show the values for all the LGAs within your state. We are going to do this by selecting level on our state and clicking on local government in the org unit dimension panel. We are going to do this for every month in 2019 also. Play around with the layout of this table in order to visualize your data properly. Then we are going to hide all empty rows and add the table title to our table. This can be done in the options panel. Look for the hide all empty rows option and click it, and then look for the table title input field and add the title to your table, and observe the changes it makes to your table. Then save the table as a favorite using this format: your name _c.u.malaria _ the name of your state _ the year 2019. Then download this table to your personal computer in an Excel format. Inspect the Excel format to ensure that it looks exactly like your table. The next practical question is to design a pivot table to filter out the public facilities in your state with outpatient attendance higher than 1,000 in 2018. We can do this by we're going to do this by adding a measure criteria, and the operation is going to be greater than, and the value is going to be 1,000. We're going to do this in the table options. Then we'll set our period to 2018. And make use of the org unit ownership tab. Select on public facilities and select on your state. This should bring out the desired pivot table. When we are done, open the table as a chart. If you are pleased with what you see, congratulations, you've completed the practical session.
As a recap, we have discussed the pivot table and its controls. We went over the interface of the pivot table, went over the top center control, went over the left controls where we select our dimensions, and also we went over the top right controls. We also discussed setting data for dimension analysis. We discussed table layouts. We discussed different options for managing tables. For example, totals, We also discussed how to download a table in different formats. Thank you for watching this video.